town. And we ask that you bless us, that we make correct decisions in this process. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Our first item 1B is declaration of conflicts of interest. The commissioners have had the agenda for their review. Is anybody on the commission need to declare any conflicts of interest with anything on the agenda tonight?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we will move forward at this time. We have our minutes that we were provided for April 16, 2026. Are there any changes, updates that need to be made to those minutes at this time? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as prepared?
Motion to approve the minutes for the April 16th, 2026 meeting.
Dean's made a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Jeff. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are actually going to make a little bit of agenda adjustment. We had a planned training for the Planning Commission that is required for us throughout the years. And we were going to start out with that tonight. We've been given the permission by our attorney, Matt Wilson, tonight to move his to the later training session. So all of you are welcome to stay and listen, but we know that those in the audience are probably here to go to item 4A on our administrative items. So we're going to go ahead and bounce to our administrative section. Our first item tonight is a conditional use permit, consideration of a conditional use permit for a residential facility for persons with a disability, sober living, located at 1330 West, 3100 North. This will be a public hearing, and so we will follow procedure on that. For those of you that possibly don't attend very often, we usually start with a staff giving a presentation, so we see what's set for us the night. We will have a discussion. We will have the petitioner usually come up, present anything that they would like to add to the presentation, and then we will open up for a public hearing. Now, the one thing with the public hearing, and we'll give the instructions again when we get there, we are going to limit the time to 2 minutes, and we're going to ask that so we're not here the entire night, is once we've heard something from somebody, we don't need to have the same different people come up and rehash the same thing over and over. That just would prolong something that probably wouldn't need to be. The other thing is we're going to try to keep it to the items that we are covering tonight because we are restricted at what we are allowed to cover at this time. So we'll go ahead and turn the time over to staff, and I think they were going to have Mr. Wilson, and then I will read the starting.
All right, I'm gonna get friendly with some of the planning commissioners. That way everyone can hear me. Sometimes my voice carries and sometimes it doesn't. Generally depends on my level of anger. My kids generally hear it very well. So just so everyone is aware, so there was a reasonable accommodation request. Part of that request included waiving the public hearing. Currently, the city does not have a process in ordinances to process reasonable accommodation requests. So because Mr. Flint and I both represent the city, we didn't feel it was appropriate for either of us to make the determination on that reasonable accommodation request. So it was sent out to a third party, Mr. Christopher Crockett, who was the hearing officer. And because of that, he made his determinations. Part of that determination was to not waive the public hearing. That's why we're here tonight, is to have that public. But the city is also bound by part of his determinations because of the Fair Housing Act under federal law, and then anti-discrimination laws as well, which are part of that Fair Housing Act. And that's basically how we got to where we're at. And Mr. Crockett made his decision, which I believe the Planning Commission has been provided.
Okay, thank you. So go ahead and read the letter. Okay, so we have actually, with what we were just explained as a group, we as a Planning Commission have been handed conditions that we will meet tonight. Want to read what we were given in that order so we can try to keep within the scope of the meeting. This matter is under consideration, conditional use permit. The city has already determined that the proposed use is residential in nature and the occupancy of up to 14 residents is permitted as a reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act. This hearing is thus limited in scope. The decision maker is not considered whether the use is allowed, whether the residents qualify as persons with disabilities, whether the number of residents should be reduced. Those issues have already been decided and not before us. Instead, the purpose of this hearing is to determine whether any reasonable anticipated land use impacts associated with the proposed use can be mitigated through reasonable conditions consistent with the city ordinances. Public comment will be accepted. However, the decision must be based on substantial evidence in the record. Comments based on generalized concerns, speculation, or opposition to the nature of the residents do not constitute substantial evidence and cannot be relied upon in making this decision. So that kind of limits the scope of what this body will be reviewing tonight based on the order that has been set before us. So I want to make sure that people understand that, first of all, I want to thank all the residents have sent. You know, we've had petitions sent in, letters that have been very informative to even myself. A lot of people up here have spent a lot of time. I have personally gone through every one of the letters that have been sent to us, so thank you for taking that time. The body up here takes it very seriously, and we want to hear from the citizens, but we're also bound to follow what we're asked to do. So with that, I'll turn the time over to staff to give our presentation, and then we'll move from there.
Okay, so this is an application before you from Rise Recovery LLC. They have submitted the conditional use permit for a sober living facility to house up to 14 residents. As has already been discussed, the ADA reasonable accommodation request has already been heard by Mr. Crockett, and he has determined several different things in the staff report that was in there. We have been ordered to recognize the proposed use as a residential facility for persons with disabilities under applicable federal and state law. The city must allow Rise Recovery to operate at the property with up to 14 residents as a reasonable accommodation. The city must treat the use as residential in nature and evaluate it in the same manner as other similarly situated residential uses. The city may not reconsider during the conditional use process whether the use is allowed, the residents qualify as persons with disabilities, or the number of residents should be reduced. The city must conduct the conditional use permit review consistent with the standards outlined in the decision and order and in compliance with federal and state law. The city must limit the scope of the public hearing and decision-making process to objective land use impacts and whether the impacts can be mitigated through reasonable conditions. The city may not base its decision on generalized public opposition, speculation, stigma, or discriminatory concerns regarding the residents. The city must approve the conditional use permit if reasonably anticipated impacts can be mitigated through the conditions that you place on this conditional use permit. Any conditions that are imposed by the city must be tied specifically to city code and supported by substantial evidence in the record. So with the decision and order that's been set before you and the application that's been submitted by Rise Recovery, staff recommends that the Planning Commission grant approval of the conditional use permit allowing 14 residents if you can determine that the reasonably anticipated impacts can be mitigated through appropriate conditions.
Okay.
I do have a handout, and I gave this to Mr. Bolingbrook and Mr. Neff. Specifically in the order, he did list things that you can list as conditions. However, like let's address parking, for instance. It is already regulated by city code, so it's not necessary to put it in as a condition because they are tied to those ordinances that are already in place. There are a few in here that I feel like are appropriate to be tied to the conditional use permit. And so I'll pass those out to you. And then Mr. Neff and Mr. Bolingbrook discuss those a little bit more as we discussed those prior to the meeting.
Anything else?
That's it.
That's it. Okay, I'm just deciding, do we want to go public hearing first?
The applicant is online.
Oh, the applicant's online,
Mhm.
okay. We'd like to go ahead and open up. I didn't see the person here, so we'd like to ask the applicant to go ahead and address the commission at this time with anything that you would like to address, present, or items you feel that we should be brought up to speed on at this time.
Thank you. I'm the attorney for the applicant, and I'll be speaking on his behalf and I appreciate your willingness to hear me by Zoom. My name is John Cutler. I'm at the firm Parsons Bailey and have represented the applicant in this matter with my colleague and partner, Dan Biddle. I believe that everything that's been stated so far in terms of the scope of this hearing accurately sets forth what we're here to discuss. And I, having reviewed all of the comments and items, I believe that there's nothing in the record that would prevent approval of this conditional use permit as requested. The hearing officer has determined this is a residential use, not some institutional type use, as may be noted by the fire division or by the planning consultant or the building consultant. This is a residential use like all other residential uses. These are 14 although unrelated by blood or marriage. There are 14 individuals who will be, up to 14 individuals who will be residing there in a household like any other unit in the neighborhood. The character of this facility, this location is no different than any other household. These are individuals who want to live together, who share a common shared experience, and who will live together as a household like anyone else. And it's been determined that they're allowed to do that and have up to 14 folks there. And with respect to the information that's been presented, this is a property that has significant parking space available on site. As has been noted, there are parking regulations that already govern all members of the public in these areas that will be followed. And we believe that there's no evidence that's in the record so far that would suggest there's any need for further or different requirements, though we're fully open to discussing any of those that the council would like to hear or that have us consider in terms of that this residence will be like any other residence in terms of how it's used. People will come and people will go as they do from any residence in this area, but not in any greater frequencies or with any differences really materially to the character of the neighborhood and those there. So I'd be happy to answer questions specifically from any of the members of the commission with respect to this, but I don't have anything further to add than put forward at this time.
Is there anybody on the commission that would like to ask any specific comments or questions from the petitioner relating specifically to the items for discussion tonight?
I have one question. The staff that will be on site, the number was between 1 and 3. Will they sleep during the night? Like, will they have a bed as well, or are they awake during the night?
That's a fair question, and my client might know the answer to that specifically a little bit better than I do. My understanding, though, is that the staff that's on site, is there. I don't think it's not like us. I guess I would put it this way: that the folks that are living there, whether they're staff or otherwise, are living there, not in kind of like there's no treatment or something like that going on at the facility. It's a residence, just like any other residence. I think the folks that are there to help ensure that, people are following house rules or living consistently with the standards that are required to live in the residence under the program and those types of things. But it's not kind of like they're not treatment providers or something like that occurring on the site. I'm not sure if that answers the question or not, though.
This is the petition.
So he doesn't have a, so we can't ask you about.
Right, at this time, but this is the part we're focusing on is what we're.
But my question, so if we wanted to know questions about operations, of day-to-day operations, concerned about safety and health of the residents, Can you answer those type of questions, sir? Or is that more the local
Sure.
owner?
I mean, day to day, I guess I'd like a specific question. The,
How, well,
I
maybe
didn't hear you.
how about if we start with food service?
But that's not necessarily relevant for
That's
this,
health and
for this,
safety.
for this commission.
That's
right?
health and safety that we're supposed to be reviewing.
We'll have Matt go ahead and, Mr. Wilson will address that.
That's something that the DHHS, Department of Health and Human Services, would be regulating and issuing the license.
Wait,
I-
wait.
And, yeah, and so my understanding is pursuant to the code, any such licensing is required for part of the permit. So regardless whether a license has been issued yet or not, it's still a requirement. So even if, say, the planning commission voted to approve, it would still be subject to such licensing by the state.
So I guess just to kind of keep it in this context, we're gonna be the judging body on, are they earning licenses? Those are other agencies that'll be responsible for inspections or issuing those licenses or making sure that they meet those requirements.
Right, but as a board, as a planning commission, and as reviewing the conditional use request, we were, in our code, it says we're supposed to look after the safety and welfare of the residents and the community.
So if we look at a few of these, we'll actually say that they have to obtain, number 7 would be obtain required licenses from the state of Utah, DHHS, prior to commencing operation. So if we put some of these we can make these as conditions, we're not gonna be the ones to go out and inspect, but we can put that as a condition before they are to operate. They need these items, so we could put those as stipulations.
What, that was the question, is to, as we go now, as those items come up, is that something that needs to be included as a condition?
I would think so. That's a good way to put it, so thank you, Brendan.
Commission, it has been asked that you speak directly into your mics so that
Sorry.
everyone can hear you.
I have a question as well. Regards to the residents, and I'll get to my point after this in a minute. Are they expected to, is this expecting them to move on to reintegrating into society after this? And I'll get to my point on that in a minute, like I said.
Yeah, I mean, I think the people living at this facility are living there for as long as their program and plan, calls for. And this is, I mean, some folks may be there for a period of time that's longer than other folks, but just like, people living in any environment might live someplace for a time and then move to some other location. There's obviously these sober living facilities have different support programs and things to help folks improve in the areas that they're working on. And when they accomplish, certain objectives that way, that may well mean that they decide to go to somewhere else. But I don't know that there's a fixed, duration that's, they're always in or always out, or that it lasts only this long or that long. I think it can vary by the individual, but if that helps to answer your question.
So would they be shifting over to, I'm assuming, working and having a normal life from this? That's the goal of this, I'm assuming?
I think they're working and having a normal life while they're in this. They're just doing it in an environment that supports their addiction recovery.
Okay, and then eventually going out and getting a job in the process, is that?
We will already.
And I think those folks will be trying to or have jobs while they are living at this facility.
So in that case, how are they being transported if there's only going to be 3 or 4 cars there? There's 14 people.
Sure. I mean, many folks, to get transportation different places, whether that's carpooling with other roommates, or whether that's using different public transportation system, whether that's the public city buses, or whether that's an Uber, or whether that's having a bicycle. There's lots of different modes of transportation that folks can use, and these people are anticipated to use all of those different forms of transportation I think it's just the average with respect to these facilities is that they generally use fewer cars than the average household.
Okay, so for 14 people plus staff, the cars for all of those people, that was my concern. It's like, my biggest concern is, wintertime, you can't park on the street. I see that as, us running out of places to put vehicles.
And to speak to that specifically, I think this property has actually more parking on it than average for the average, single family home. And so I think there are in fact, a significant number of places for folks to park, even if they end up having more than 2 or 3 cars. The actual location we're talking about here has a significant amount of parking space on it already. And I think we've addressed, that in terms of the application we've made, but also just if you look at the physical layout of the location, it has more than average parking for the neighborhood.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, hearing none, we will go ahead and I'll entertain a motion to open for a public hearing. A reminder that we are going to limit the public hearings to 2 minutes, so we can try to get those involved. We are going to ask that we stick to the items that we are addressing tonight as this body, that we have the ability to discuss. Once you hear it, you've heard somebody discussing those items, we'll ask that you let someone else have the time so we're not just rehashing the same issue over and over. We will try to limit the time. Once we hear that we're running out of issues, we will limit the amount of total time, but we have a clock on the desk up here for 2 minutes. Go ahead and we'll take a motion to open a public hearing.
Mr. Chair, can I just
Yes.
interrupt one time? We just specify that once you've been to the mic, you need to express all of your concerns and your input at that time. It's not a multiple, come up 3 separate times for 2 minutes. So just one.
And also, I almost forgot, so thank you. If you come up, state your name and address for the record, just so we have that as part of the public hearing record. So we'll appreciate that. And then sometimes it gets a little hard to hear people out there, so we're going to ask people to speak into the mic and use the mic so everybody else out there can hear. And let's be respectful, and we'll not get into the cheering and, making a loud noise. We want to make sure everybody in the back can hear also. Okay, we have a motion to open a public hearing.
A motion, we open the public hearing for administrative item 4A, the conditional use permit, located at 1330 West, 3100.
We have a motion by Jeff to open the public hearing. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are now in an open public hearing. Would like to go ahead and take any audience members. You're welcome to come up one at a time to the mic. State your name and address, please.
Oh man, hold it down. My name's Braden Capner. You take it up. Oh, okay. I live at 1322 West Osage Court, just a few houses away from the proposed sober living facility. That I'm here tonight to present to submit a petition that was signed by 532 residents and community members regarding this application. Hopefully you received that. That this petition is not based on opposition to individuals in recovery, that is based on a concern that the record before the city does not support the significant accommodations being requested. After reviewing the staff report, many residents were surprised to learn that the hearing officer's review was conducted solely on materials submitted by the applicant. The hearing officer himself states that the city presented no evidence in support or opposition of the proposal, and that the determination was based entirely on information presented by RISE. As a result, the hearing officer was never presented with concerns, evidence, questions, or perspectives that many residents have researched and submitted to the city, yet the staff report relies heavily on those conclusions and largely treats the issues of necessity and reasonableness as already resolved. That we do not believe that they are resolved. The city code establishes the limit of 5 unrelated individuals. The applicant is requesting an accommodation of 14 residents, nearly 3 times the standard established by the city ordinance, and that a substantial accommodation and substantial accommodation should require substantial evidence. The applicant has presented many assurances regarding transportation, supervision, screening, neighborhood compatibility, and operational oversight. However, many of those assurances are presented as promises rather than supported by objective evidence, documented policies, or demonstrated operational experience.
Your time is.
We suggest that you table it and don't listen to the hearing officer's recommendation.
Thank you.
Good evening. May I ask an administrative question?
Your name.
for the-
Name and address, please, for the record.
Thank you. Tony Common at 3116 North 1250 West. May I ask an administrative question?
Let's just leave it to the comments right now. If you want to ask the question, we can address it afterwards.
My comments are that, first of all, I appreciate your soliciting the public's input. I am concerned, though, with the 2-minute limitations for each and every one that presents, that there really isn't sufficient time for those of us that have done research on the topic and subject to present an argument as well as the evidence. And so here is my administrative question. How much time will be afforded us, the members of the community remaining in the schedule, to speak to this topic? And if that is 20 or 30 or 40 minutes in duration, is it possible for any of my associates and fellow members of our community and neighborhoods to yield a few of their 2-minute segments so that I and others might speak more specifically and concretely to the issues at hand? And I pose that question, commissioners, because I believe that we probably have maybe 4 or 5 total presenters that have prepared specific remarks for this meeting in this venue. So can you please respond to that and perhaps stop the clock?
Personally, I don't know that that would meet the requirements of what we're looking for a general information from others. If we get to the point there's plenty of time left tonight, then we can come back and yield some of that time to people in the audience. But I think in general, we'd like to get a broadcast.
So it's 2 minutes for an individual to come up and speak. And generally, a public hearing is not a back and forth. It is an opportunity for people to come and present
Correct.
their comments and their evidence. And it's 2 minutes per person if they want to use that or not, but it's not transferable.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Kendall Geiger. I'm at 3301 North, 1375 West, here in Pleasant View. I'm trying to understand in these brief explanations that these are people with disabilities, people trying to dry out from alcohol or drugs, and that you're putting 14 individuals into a single family dwelling and expecting them to get along. If your contractor doesn't have law enforcement and some serious backup on those people at home, when they come out of the house at night, they're in for a fight. I rented properties in downtown Austin when they converted all the beautiful old mansions in the avenue into multifamily buildings, and it was a nightmare. The families fought, there was violence, there was all sorts of problem. If you think they're going to live under the opportunity to get sober, you don't understand drugs. You don't have any idea what you're up to and how many people it takes to look over 14 people who have drinking and drug problems. You're gonna have your hands full. They'll not only burn that house down, but they'll move into the neighborhood's houses at their will. Because I experienced that in the avenues in Ogden 50 years ago. And that's what I have to offer. I don't know who your contractor is or how they think they're gonna watch 14 sobering drunks, but they're in trouble.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Tony Pittman, 1322 West, 3200 North. Many of you know me. I served on the planning commission and on the city council. So I understand how this works. And because of the 2-minute timer and Tony Commons' comments, if this is where we're at tonight and there's no wiggle room, which it sounds like there's not, then I would like to suggest that everybody in the audience just come up, take 10 seconds and say, we would like you to table this so we can have an opportunity to share our research and our information. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danny Cole. I live at 3170 North, 1350 West in Pleasant.
Can you speak into the
I
mic?
want to know, is this going to be a money making adventure for the owners of the home? They're going to make cash. Okay. Right in the HOA regulations, it says that the residences will be used for housing for residences, and then expressly for no other purpose. So you can't have a business in the HOA. You can't put people in a house and make money on it. Say, okay, the HOA is opposed to it by the restrictions of limited use regulations. So who in here wants this to go through? Anybody? Raise your hand if you want to see it.
No, we're not addressing the audience, please.
You ought to know what's going on then.
Yep.
Nobody wants it. I don't want it.
Thank you.
Jason Swift, 3138 North, 1350 West. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist with specialty training in neuropsychology. I review literature on a regular basis. I reviewed the application. Many of the claims they make are false. The research they cited does not support the claims they make. I agree this should be tabled. There should be an independent review of all the research cited and all the current concerns psychologically related to overcrowding. As this gentleman expressed, there's significant research that shows that too many people, especially unrelated men, in a small house leads to more aggression and violence, which threatens the entire community. There's also claims about the rates of crime not being higher in sober living residences, and that is not true. There's no evidence to support that. There's a lot of evidence, in fact, statistically, that speaks to lots of individuals with substance abuse histories have higher rates of criminal behavior, sexual offending, substance abuse relapse, and motor vehicle accidents. It's putting the entire community at risk. Not to mention the location, right in the heart of a community with families. When families are close to criminal activity, that criminal activity increases. The further away the individuals who have a history, the lesser the likelihood of that criminal behavior. This needs to be tabled. There needs to be an independent review of the research and other opportunities for people to present their concerns with research, with facts. I appreciate that opportunity to table it and have a longer, further discussion. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Parker. I live at 3234 North 50 West. And I didn't have anything prepared. So I appreciate the people that did a lot of research and have a lot of information. So I'm also asking for time and independent review on it and to hear more information. A couple things that I noticed is he had mentioned that they're not in a program, and then he contradicted himself and he said that they were in programs. And then he didn't answer the question that you asked, whether the faculty members would be sleeping at night or day. It terrifies me to think that they need to be awake at night. And I would hate for them to lie to us and say that. Then also I was a little confused about licenses they need, because if they need certain licenses, I'm assuming that those are business licenses, and we're residential zone, we're not zoned for business. The other thing is if it's a not-for-profit, I've heard that it's gonna be a not-for-profit organization. They need to have all sorts of things that I'm sure you're fully aware of, like, health department needs to come in. They have to have a kitchen facility. If they're getting subsidized food from the state, then they have to have health inspectors come in. They also have to have certain grades in their kitchen. They have to have certain fire restrictions. They also have to be inspected by, anyway, well, you guys know that, but that's what is a little concerned about if it's a business and they are going to be authorized to run a business in a residential zone, which I don't think is okay. Then what licenses do they need and are those gonna be attainable? If it's disability, if we're going under disability, then is the house designed for disability? I'm sure that there's not sprinkling systems, and I'm sure that knowing the homes in that neighborhood, there's stairs, the bathrooms are not ready. I'm asking for time.
Thank you.
My name is Taylor Ince. I live at 3171 North, 1200 West. Some of the concerns that I have, and I agree, I think we should be tabling this, getting an independent study performed to determine whether this is actually feasible. But through the application process, the listed clinical director does not identify Rise Recovery LLC in his own curriculum vitae, which is concerning that he's proposing this despite not associating with them. Additionally, he is listed as a clinical director elsewhere since February 2nd of 2025. A lot of these are going outside the line of LCSW Code of Ethics. The required state licenses from DHHS have not been issued, and based on the inconsistencies throughout the application, I don't think that they should. There's definite concern about some like improprieties there. And then finally, the Rise Recovery does not have an established operational history or public presence, despite in their documents stating that they've been in operation for the last 10 years. So there's multiple falsehoods that have been found in their applications just by study from lay people. So.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Bill Asherman. I live at 3190 North, 1375 West. The biggest concern that I have, and I think everybody expresses some other concerns that I have. However, this one is, are these individuals voluntarily in this program or are they court ordered? I think it's a huge difference. It'll bring that criminal element right into our neighborhoods. Thanks.
My name is Lloyd George, 3129 North, 1200 West. We've got a house, the lot right next to us is vacant. What is, as I understand it, there's already a rule that, you know, no more than 5 unrelated individuals living in a home. What's to stop another applicant to come in and put a multi-unit building right there? You do this, you set a precedence for somebody else.
Pauline Turner, I live at 3187 North, 1075 West. I am speaking as a mother, as a grandmother, and as a great-grandmother. I think the top priority should be those families, all of our families with children and youth and teenagers. These are adult men who have been addicted to drugs or alcohol are going to be put in our neighborhoods. I think if anything else, that should be number one on the list. What about these young families? What about our youth? What about our children being subjected to this kind of environment? I agree, they need a place to go, but not in this area where there's so many homes, so many young people, so many children and families. That's what I'm begging you to do. Please put this at the top of your priority. Consider what it can do to the youth, to the children, to our families. Please, please think about that first. Okay, I agree they need, but not in a neighborhood like this. Drive by, go over and see where it is. See all the homes, see all the children, see all the young people. What is it going to be? Put that first. Please put that as a priority and don't allow this to take place here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Grace Anderson. I'm 677 West 2825 North, Pleasant View, Utah. I've been a member of this community for 15 years. I currently hold a master's degree in taxation and public administration. After reviewing the applicant's license for the Health and Human Services, if you look at page 3, it says license type, it says residential support. After reading what all the different licensor types is, this actually qualifies as a residential treatment license type. That means that there is counseling on site. That means there's 24-hour staff on site. If you're residential support, then you follow under all the ADA and Fair Housing Acts. I believe that they deliberately decided to choose residential support instead of residential treatment, which is the actual correct licensure that they should be applying for. Residents are placed in specifically in the program for treatment. That's residential treatment. Residential support is people are living there more for life skills. There's roommates. It's more of a boarding house, if you will. And if you look at the Pleasant View Code, boarding houses do fall under the residential code. However, I believe for somebody with 14 years of experience in social work, they knew darn well that this is a residential treatment license. As such, they need 4 full bathrooms for 14 men. That means a shower, toilet, and sink for 14 men. As I was looking in the facts, and I looked through all of the bedrooms, bedroom 1 has enough for 4 people. Bedroom 2 has enough for 2 people. Bedroom 3 has enough for 2 people. Bedroom 4 has enough for 1 person. There is an attached dwelling unit, looks like on the property, according to Pleasant View Code 18, that is not allowed. I asked the Pleasant View City asked for us to table this so that we can show that it's actually legal for them to, whatever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Nina Gazzetti and I live 3165 North, 1325 West. I'm just going to first ask that you table this decision for more research and so that more of us can express our opinions. But one of the things that I am worried about is actually for the safety of the residents, because the closest bus stop is 1.5 miles away from our, from Jacobs Mill Road. And that is on Highway 89 where there are no sidewalks. So these residents are going to be walking up and down Highway 89 or using a bike on Highway 89. And we all know that that can be a little scary. There's also, there's hardly any amenities for these gentlemen. There's no Smith, there's no Walgreens, there's no bank. But if I looked on Zillow and there's a home for sale in North Ogden that has 8 bedrooms and like 6 bathrooms, and it's right in, it's so close to Smith's, like it would be a much better property for these gentlemen. They would have all the local amenities that they would need to survive, and they wouldn't be able to use the bus. They'd be able to use Ubers. They'd be able to walk. They wouldn't have to take their life in danger by walking along Highway 89. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Devin Schenk. I live at 1296 West Osage Court in Pleasant View. Want to address this conditional use permit. Please spend time creating measurable and enforceable conditions. Review those and discuss as a committee before responding. Many conditions have already been submitted via email to you with significant thought and research. So I won't take your time right now and go through those. You already have those emails. You've seen them. You've looked over them. Please, before you respond, go through those and make sure that the conditions in there are specific and measurable. Thanks very much. Please just table this discussion for future review.
My name is Rachel Shoup. I live at 3143 North, 1325 West. And I'm requesting a table of review for further research on the impact to police, which was previously mentioned, but also fire and EMS. My husband, who lives at the same residence but is currently working tonight in another city, stated that in the city that he works for, that one facility alone that they've responded to, and he is not sure how many residents live in that particular residence that is established similarly to this, that they have responded 8 times already to EMS calls so far this year. And so it does impact the resources available for this type of facility or residents and the number of residents that would be there, as well as the fact that this is setting a precedent for what can go in across the city and exponentially increase that need. So I ask that you table this for more research and impact studies for that reason. Thank you.
Commissioners, Philip Nelson, 4366 North, 175 West. Thanks for doing what you're doing. I know you all didn't bring this proposal. This is not your business, so appreciate you doing it. I did want to just hit on what Commissioner Gray had mentioned about the park. As you're aware, the city ordinance allows you, it says you shall issue a conditional use permit if all of the reasonably anticipated detrimental effects can be mitigated by their site plan. What I just heard is a question about how 14 occupants of a home plus staff will park property. And the answer I heard was, well, some of them will ride scooters, some of them will ride, that's my law office. That doesn't work. When I get my business license, I have to show how much parking I have, and you're all aware of this. And so I think that's a very reasonable question of, can that potential reasonably anticipated harm be mitigated? And if it can't be mitigated by the plan that's been submitted, then you are authorized under the ordinance, you may deny the conditional use permit. So I would encourage you, it sounds like there's some questions that the applicant couldn't answer that are very easily, I think, reasonably anticipated. So I would encourage you to look into those and table it until you get the answers that I would be required to give for my business or anybody else would be required to give. Thank you.
My name is Rebecca Rahimzadeh, 3181 North, 1250 West. I do understand that they need to have a place to go. I believe 14 individuals within one residence, all having issues, trying to overcome these issues is a lot for one home. Everybody has an individual home and they may all have 1 or 2 people that may have something that they're overcoming. But to put 14 individuals within one home, where the HOA says, well, 5 within one residence. Also, I'm concerned with what is RISE policy for criminal screening, for criminal background. Are there felons? Are there pedophiles? We don't know what other issues they have. And that is a concern for me with all the children that are in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
So my name's Randall Floyd, 3390 North, 1325 West here in Pleasant View. So I don't know if you noticed when you as the commission asked questions, every answer that you received started with, I think. and you can go back and review that. We need answers to direct questions, and we need specific answers that let us know that it's more than just, well, we think so. And so I also think that this should be tabled. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Robert Harbin. I live at 3355. I forgot, I know my name, 3355 North 1325 West. So as I've kind of read through a bunch of this stuff already and then listening to everybody here, listening to his responses and whatnot, I feel like this is overall up to this point has really not had a lot of good review, more other than just like, we don't want anybody else talking about this. Let's decide this, and then we can move forward with the conditional permit. I think there's enough concern across a broad spectrum of things that this needs to be tabled and discussed further. That's all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy Baszler, 1251 West, 3100 North. I would ask that this be tabled. I know we addressed the parking, but if their garage was cleaned out, they'd have 3 in the garage and possibly 5 in the driveway in the gravel. And I would ask that you guys be able to limit to that. We know we can't park on the road during the winter months. That house is the corner of, the kids bus stop. So there is a safety issue if there's a lot of cars around, you know, if the kids are trying to get on the bus and stuff. So, you know, please consider that when you're doing your conditions. So thank you.
We're starting to hear reoccurring themes, so if it's something new, we'd still welcome you to come up. We'll do this for a few more minutes, but we always welcome the public input.
Hi, I'm Vicky Johnston, 3288 North, 1250 West in Pleasant View. Mine is really more about safety. I actually have a child that has been in and out of behavioral centers. She has mental issues. She is currently in a hospital right now. My concern really is about having 14 men with 1 to 3 staff in a house. Where my daughter is at right now, there are about 6 to 8 staff plus 2 security guards over about 14 children, about the same. And there are issues, and these people are not addicted to drugs or alcohol, but they have issues, which I'm quite sure that these men also have mental issues. Perhaps that could be the reason why they've become alcoholics and drug addicts. We have sent her away to an isolated place, so she is away from residential housing, because people like this are unpredictable. And this, I mean, I love that the applicant is trying to provide services for these people. I think it's much needed. But to be in a residential community like this is really the wrong place. So I would hope that, my hope is that it is not here, but maybe somewhere else. But just to think about, there are a lot of children here. How a lot of these people that are in recovery, you just have no idea what they're capable of. And we're talking about men, not children. I mean, I visited with my daughter yesterday in the hospital, and they already had, they call it being strapped, where a child is held because they are not behaving right.
Thank you.
My name is Eliana Kapner. I live on 1322 West Osage Court, pretty much kitty corner to this property that we are speaking on. As of last Friday, my husband had contacted the city attorney, Matt Wilson, and from the phone call, he had mentioned that the hearing officer's determination was not binding. This is where we have researched the memorandum some more, and we came up with this petition. The petition, if you recall, speaks on the fact that the city had not provided enough or any evidence at all, and his decision was specifically and solely only on the applicant's information. My concern is that this permit is, or the purpose of a conditional permit is not to automatically approve a proposed use. It exists because some uses require additional scrutiny to determine whether they are appropriate for a specific location. The burden should not be on the applicant, should be on the applicant to demonstrate compatibility with this neighborhood, and they have not provided that. There are many questions still to be answered, and one of those is that there are not enough measurable conditions that have been previously set. The city needs to review that before we go ahead and approve this. I believe that the best case right now is to table it so we can research this. The city needs to do this. The details matter because this proposal would place 14 men in a 6-bedroom home with a bonus room that is proposed as a 7th sleeping area. It raises legitimate questions, not only for the neighborhood, but for them as well. We want it to be a good living home for those who are going to reside in there. In addition, residents have raised concerns that there may already be individuals residing there legally under the 5 limit that is stated in law. Before approving a significant expansion of occupancy, the city should verify that all current occupancy and registration requirements are being followed by that use before we go on to allow even more. I asked to table this.
My name's Laurel Mock, and I live at 3087 North, 1075 West. I just want to point out that the representing lawyer on Zoom contradicted himself, saying that this is a residence, but then he also says that there will be staff 24/7. My residence does not need staff 24/7. The only homes I know that have follow-up like that are ones that have had incidences and have had reports and have to have government agencies check in on those incidences and follow up. So I don't know of residents in residential areas that need that outside of ones that have had incidences followed by police and other DCSF. So also I just agree that I have a master's in psychology, and just for the best well-being of the people who are living in that home, that you challenge the studies they presented. You look for the gold standard, not just subpar standards that maybe RISE presented, saying that 14 would be okay and check into what would be best. I suggest that we table this as we get more specific information and answers, and that includes from RISE or other information we do on our own research.
My name is Denny Harbin. I live at 3355 North, 1325 West. And let the record show that I am disabled, and I at least need my address. Now, I say that because of everything I have heard is based on what you have to have us back. And I can't tell you that. I struggle now to read. I struggle to speak. And there are moments when even on a good day, it's a hard day. So when you say 14 people, and we're talking adults, I want you to remember what it's like for you. Even on a good day, it can be a hard day. You put people together that are working and trying and sometimes struggling to have a successful, again, measurable way of finding their path. It's not to put other people in danger, it's to find what it is that they can do. If we can't make it something that's available to them, because they will have hard days and they will need that support. And at 14 adults, it's hard with any amount. I have 3 people that live in my house, and we have bad days. We have hard days. Please think about this in terms of how it applies to these individuals. It's not just to us, it is us, but we want their success too. So when you look at people and you say, oh, it has to be ADA compliant, please understand that that has different meanings for different people. And even on a good day, it can be hard.
My name is Kevin Wasden, and I live at 1325 West, 1250 North in Pleasant View. I have served as a school teacher, school administrator for many years. As an administrator, we work with children with disabilities all the time, IEPs, different things, and I know that's a different law, but one of the common vocabulary words we use is reasonable accommodation. And in education, nobody, school, parents, nobody has the right to come in and demand accommodations. We come together, we have discussions, we make decisions, and I feel that's very much where you guys are right now, is in that meeting, making that determination. What is a reasonable accommodation? I hope you consider what's been said. Do we have enough evidence to determine that 14 is a reasonable accommodation? In this case, we do have one party who has come in and essentially demanded that without hearing and researching that other side. So I do ask that we table, that we consider, that you guys consider what is a reasonable accommodation based on the needs of the home and of the community and residents. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else in the public that would like to address that has a different point of view that we'd like to hear still tonight?
My name is Kimberly Swift. I live at 3138 North, 1350 West, backyard neighbor to this house. I know that by reading the application, the research that was cited was not necessarily cited correct. And I appreciate that you have all read through those, the application. I hope that you have actually gone to the research that has been cited. I know that there is more research that has been done that shows that some of those things that were stated are not correct. And for this reason, and because when questions are asked, they have not been answered very well, I ask that you please table this so that the accurate research can be shown and that can have a say in this instead of just what one company decides to put on a paper, whether that is or is not correct. Thank you.
May I speak to a second point?
No, we're not gonna take that at this time. So we're gonna keep moving on. Anything else from staff? Thank you.
I was just going to mention that you have some online that are asking to comment. Legal indicates that you don't have to allow that, but you can.
How many are there? I mean, is that a reading or a verbal? It's usually fairly hard to hear that. And so,
So there are two residents that have just asked for it to be tabled. I can read those for you, and then there was one person that asked to speak.
if the reading of the two that are short, let's go ahead and put those on record. It gets a little hard for us as we've tried to do verbal to do that. So we'll pass at that time.
Okay. The first is Ashley Zorko, 1277 West Osage Court. He says, I am requesting this table and more time so I can do more research and provide that to the commission and independent research done. Thank you. And the second is Audrey Boson, 1239 West Osage Court. I ask that we table this until further review that is conducted with information from both sides can be done.
Okay, so similar to what we've already been hearing for the night.
So can I not speak just because I'm online? Because I was only given a week notice and already had plans to be out of town? Is that?
We're gonna go ahead, shut that off. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make a motion. Do we have a motion to table the hearing at this time?
The public hearing.
Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
We have a motion by Manya to close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Dean. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The public hearing is now closed. We'll now open up for commission discussion.
That's such a freaking deal.
I'd like to, a couple things maybe got thrown at me that I would like to maybe ask Mr. Wilson that can help us out. HOA
They let the-
typically not an item that is covered, that is not covered on the planning commission. The city does not deal with that. That is a different situation. Is that something that the residents would be able to address on their own as their own housing unit? Is that somewhere they can go? But for the record, that's not anything that we should be addressing at this time. Is that correct?
That's correct. The city does not enforce the HOA rules. The HOA is the one that would enforce their own rules.
Okay. So I wanted to point that out. Also from a lot of, we had a third party that came in, they reviewed it and they looked at the research, you know, be it right or wrong, or whether they had a chance to dig into it deeper, you know, that is kind of our binding order that this body is kind of working off of. Is that correct?
That's correct. And so just to clarify, I did speak with some residents. So Mr. Crockett's decision is not a foregone conclusion with this planning commission. There are certain things that are binding, but he has not made a decision on whether the conditional use permit should be granted or not. He did leave that up to the planning commission, but it is still, there are binding things that you are required within his order to consider.
So those would be
Like,
mainly like the number
correct.
of type of people. We can look at items that are on our ordinances and see if there's any restrictions, as it was brought up earlier with the parking. That's an issue, but it's based on what's already on our ordinances that we have to do conditions with those type of things. Is that correct?
Correct. And if those conditions cannot be imposed, then you're not required, or they can't, sorry, my
Be
brain's not
mitigated.
working.
Be mitigated.
Be mitigated, to that detrimental effect, or that you're not able to mitigate that detrimental effect, then, you're not required to grant the conditional use permit. So, but if they are able to be mitigated, as the ordinance states, it shall be granted.
Based on ordinance. It's already on the book. Okay. We've heard a lot of good comments from the audience, and I appreciate everybody coming in. As I stated earlier, there's a lot of research that's taken place. Opened my eyes to a lot of things and very interesting. I think a lot of us up here have a lot of personal thoughts, concerns, but as we bring it back to what are the items on the books, you know, disabilities true to my heart, and I read a lot on that. There's some classifications for disability that I have not dealt with before, and so it helped me understand a little better of what's before us. So with that, I'm going to open it up for discussion for the commission. If you have any other questions for Mr. Wilson or for our group discussion at this time. John, you look like you got a question right there. This is a discussion for ourselves.
I'm stalling.
Please speak into your mic.
Pull your mic over. Pull your mic over.
Actually, I'm stalling for a minute, waiting for someone else to jump in. Maybe questions for staff. We understand the licensing requirements from the state. How does the timetable work on whether it be an occupancy permit from the city or a business license from the city? What's the order? Because there'd be DHS licensing and some of those other things that have been brought up tonight, plus that's listed in Mr. Crockett's list.
Right, so that depends on how you guys were to go ahead or to go about approving it. With that list that I sent out to you, you can put a condition in that they are to obtain all required licensing from DHHS before commencing operations. You can also put a condition that they must maintain that in good standing. So if that was the condition, then we would have to have those in place before the conditional use permit was active and valid. And then the business licensing would take place after that, because there's no point in issuing the business license without the conditional use permit being approved and the state licensing happening.
Other questions for staff or comments, discussion topic?
General question.
Are we referring this to city council or are we making the decision
We're
tonight?
the approval body.
Okay. Had a couple of other questions. One for Matt. You mentioned that we don't have city ordinance for a reasonable accommodation. I'm just wondering how Mr. Crockett received authority to make a decision for the entire city.
That's a great question. So because, as I said, Mr. Flint and I represent the city, in making that determination, it could be that there's possible advice that we needed to provide, and we didn't want to conflict ourselves out of providing advice during this process. So that's why it was a contracted third party with the city that received that authority. Because even if there's not an ordinance on the books, if the city receives a reasonable accommodation, it needs to be addressed. We can't just ignore it.
Right, I wouldn't expect to ignore it. I'm just wondering how the authority was granted to an independent attorney that has probably never been in Pleasant to that address. It seems to me that there should have been more of an evidentiary exchange, that he should have asked for evidence if he had none from Pleasant View.
So I guess it depends on the type of evidence, because if it's evidence regarding the psychology and whatnot, I don't think anyone in staff at Pleasant View is able to provide that.
No, but
And
we
that's
could
what-
have hired someone, obviously.
we don't make those determinations, though. It's the Department of Health and Human Services that makes determinations. We're not stating that by the Department of Health and Human Services can come and say, you're not granted a license for 14. They can limit that.
It's just a concern because I noted Mr. Howick's declaration stated he's a clinical director for RISE, but his emphasis is in forensics. I don't see that as someone that's really qualified to determine living conditions.
Again, that's why the Department of Health and Human Services is the ones that make those determinations.
Is that going to be submitted, I guess, at some point to them?
It is a requirement for these facilities to operate within the state of Utah. But also, if this body were to approve, as Andrea had stated, that could be a condition, not only that they obtain the licensing, but they maintain the license in a good upstanding status with the state.
I had another couple questions. Some mention of the parking situation. Perhaps you could tell us, staff, is gravel an acceptable parking surface in Pleasant View?
Yep.
Yeah.
You drive around, you'll see people parking on their gravel
Wondering
pads all the time.
whether it needs city ordinance or not, though.
Yeah, as long as they're not leaking anything, an illicit discharge, but that would be a stormwater violation, not a parking violation.
Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Question on 1216 here, side by side parking. Can you tell me, is that side by side in the driveway, how they park, or what exactly is that?
So I actually, didn't put that code on there, so the code is following each one. So snow removal is
Okay.
1216. Side by side parking is in 18.64. And all it states is that any required off-street parking is side by side. So if we require 2 off-street parking spaces for a home, they have to be side by side. They can't be, I forgot the word.
Front to back?
Yeah.
Or whatever, yeah. So would that,
Tandem.
that would mean, in all reality, the required parking for this one would be, well, I've seen the plan. It looks to me like there's 3, maybe 4. Is that correct? And what I saw on the plot, for side-by-side parking, there would, in a situation where they have to park in the driveway or whatever, there's only room for, I think, 3, maybe 4.
But that meets the RE 15 zone code for parking.
Yes, but for the, I'm thinking of the number of people and the number of cars that would be required once people start driving there, and I'm seeing that as I'm seeing that as being covered by mostly staff. It leaves enough room for maybe, if there's 3 staff there, there's 1 or 2 more spots and that's it.
Right, so they're bound by all city ordinances regarding parking. But we can't require anything further than we can require for any other home in an RE15 zone.
So if parking becomes an issue, if this were to all go through, what would the city be able to do? Rescind
The police department.
If it was approved and it was a condition that parking maintain the current standards in the zone, that is potentially an opportunity to revoke the conditional use permit.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
also going to point out on the sheet that I sent, or that I passed along to you, in the order, it does specify that you can make a condition that the facility is to operate in a manner consistent with the representations made in the application and supporting documents. So where they have said that they're not going to have an excess amount of vehicles in there, if you put in that condition, that they operate in a manner consistent to what they've submitted to the city, that would be a potential violation of that condition and reason to revoke.
And I do like that. I appreciate
Yes.
that part of the code where, actually, one of the things that she wrote in the summary of it, from Mr. Crockett was, the wording I like is any material change to the nature of use, including any increase in number of residents or alteration in operation characteristics, require approval as applicable by city code. So if they're going to change anything, it would have to be pre-approved, and or it could be grounds for, revoking that. So, yeah, you're gonna still have to meet the regular parking. I think if you read through most of these decision and order items, a lot of these are items that I believe we would want to attach onto our consideration, if we're approving this with regards to this. I like your licensing. It would be, we approve, but they obtain all required licensing and from the state and the DHS prior to commencing operation. I think those are the type of things that we would make a recommendation as part of our conditional approval.
No, what about the recommendations from the fire chief?
I'll have Mr. Wilson address that.
I think the applicant actually, or his attorney may want to address it. I would say it really depends, because this is a residential facility. I don't know that that's necessarily an enforceable condition. If you were to approve, my recommendation would be to comply with fire code rather than that specific condition, and just be that general comply with fire code rather than require spray. Again, if you're to approve.
Would you say that's the same as from the building consultant's recommendations as well?
Yes.
Is that?
Yes, and my understanding is that they are not doing any structural changes, or not proposing any. If they were proposing any structural changes, they would be required to apply for a building permit and be subject to those inspections.
While you're on, one other question. There's been during the public hearing, there's a lot of questions, or a lot of requests about tabling for further review. Does that fit under what's been done already with the third party determination? Is that actually even an option?
I mean, it's always an option. It just depends on if you're not able to impose those reasonable conditions that would mitigate that detrimental effect.
It would need to be something specific to review, not a general review, but something specific.
Correct.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
And I just want to point out as well, the reasonable accommodation request is not for consideration by the planning commission. The reasonable accommodation request was submitted and determined by the hearing officer. So that's not something that you guys are considering tonight, which is a lot of the requests for tabling.
Well, I've been to a lot of these meetings. And this one's got the most attendance out of all of them. And I think with the fact that we have so much of the community involved, and they're all pretty much in sync for what they're asking for, I don't think it's unreasonable to request a table
based on what they're asking for, and based on council's inability to answer our basic questions that we were asking, I don't feel that we were addressing the reasonable accommodations specifically, but we were addressing questions within the request for the conditional use permit. And so I like the idea of,
So can
Gather-
you specify the reasons why you would be in favor of tabling it? Are they objective land use concerns that need further research?
I would say yes, just based on what we've been talking about at parking, what we've talked about with the fire code, what we've talked about with the school bus stop. I wasn't aware that that was a school bus stop on that same corner. I think that's a valid concern.
But can you tonight list conditions that would address those concerns? Because if you can come up with a mitigation to those effects, then it shouldn't be tabled. That's all I'm saying.
I don't have a mitigation. That's why I'm saying let's table it and let's get more information. Because we've been given a lot of information in the 96 hours. And it's been coming in all day today. And I think that we have some very smart people here in the room that know what they're talking about. And we have a whole bunch of residents who are very concerned about this issue. And they're just asking us to be better educated. That's all. So I would like to be better educated. I wasn't going for that, but.
But I'm listening to staff, and you know my philosophy or my thoughts on the tabling. If we come back to it, if we're tabling it, I was asked for specifics. What are things, we're not gonna be the ones to look at the food handlers permits. We're not, I mean, I'm just using that for an example, right? That's not this body. We're not looking at the licensing. Those are the type of things. We are here for as the land use,
But we don't-
authority to approve. So that's why I'm just like, more specifically, if we said we're tabling it, what would we do differently in a month from now? What things would we spell out, say, these are the things we would like brought to us or addressed, or it's not gonna go, Mr. Wilson, it's not gonna be sent back to a third party again, is that correct? I mean, if we're doing something, it has to come back to this body and something that we actually control, is that right?
That's correct.
Can I ask one more question? In terms of the reasonable accommodation and Mr. Crockett's ruling, is there any appeal of his order
Is there an appeal?
process?
No.
But you've
There
already-
is an appeal process for this body.
Now, I think we already determined that Mr. Crockett's Mr. Crockett's or determination is not binding at this one, or did I understand that wrong?
So certain things of it are binding. It doesn't bind you to approve the conditional use permit
Okay.
if you cannot find those conditions to mitigate.
At bare minimum, I would really like to see that the whole thing with the fire code be hashed out between the fire department's recommendation and building code recommendation versus the applicant. So that we're on the same page with that one. Or is that not feasible?
I'll defer to counsel for Mr. Frederickson.
Mr. Cutler, do you want to address the fire issue at this time and how that might be addressed?
Yes, thank you. Two things. They go to both the building department inspector consultant's review and the fire. They both raised the same issue, which was the standard that they applied was a standard for an R4 condition 1 residential care and assisted living 5 to 16 occupants. That standard is the one that they applied in reaching their conclusions. But that standard is inconsistent with what Mr. Crockett determined, which is that this is not a Group R4 Condition 1 Residential Care and Assisted Living Facility. This is a residence, just like any other R3 residence, with the only accommodation that was made was the number of unrelated people who can live at the residence. In this current zoning, in an R3 zone, for a house of the size of this one, there's no limitation with respect to how large the family size can be for people who are related. And there's no requirements for an ordinary residential home that you have an automatic fire sprinkler system. So the issue with respect to fire, and the same thing with the building department, is that they did not apply the correct building code for the use that we're talking about here. And so this has been determined by Mr. Crockett to be a residential use. It's not a assisted living facility. It's not a inpatient treatment center. And so for that reason, the fire district and the building code professionals have not applied the correct standard in reaching their recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask again, the commissioners speak into their mics? They're having a hard time hearing in the back. Thank you.
Matt, is that as a city attorney, is that your opinion as well, that Beacon's Code consultants also misapplied this?
I try to be neutral because I'm only advising the city, and I don't want to argue one way or the other, but Mr. Crockett did make a determination. It is a residential use. It's not something that would be imposed on other residential uses in the area. That was a vague lawyer answer, wasn't it? So.
Dean, that's one thought on the fire code. And I know that was another issue, but you had mentioned bus stops, but that would be something that would be looked at by the school to determine if they want to move it, right? That's not necessarily something, if they determine that's an unsafe spot, that might be something that's moved or mitigated. What are the other things that you mentioned that you would, if tabled, that would be, we would want to have addressed before brought back to this body? Hold on just a minute.
Mr. Wilson? Is it possible to table it based on these 11 conditions that Mr. Crockett has provided?
I mean, it's always possible. It just depends. If you, like I said, if you cannot come up with reasonable conditions to mitigate it, then staff needs specific direction on what the planning commission needs to hear so that they can make a reasonable determination on the application.
I have a couple comments. To Dean's, well, a couple comments about the vehicle traffic. If we were to, I know that they say in their application 1 to 6 potentially, but the reality is every single person can have a car, right? It's the reality. So if you had the potential of 17 plus vehicles, wouldn't that fundamentally alter the community? My argument would say yes, because right now, and then to another point is, and I brought this up earlier, and I still am unclear as to why we can't consider reasonable accommodations as tonight, simply because the applicant had months to prepare this, and I literally had 5 days to review all this, and there is a lot here, and I told you earlier that in about 15 minutes I found a court case, Harmony House Westlake versus Parkstone Property Owners Association, that addresses this very issue, the number of applicants in a sober living home. And it was denied because they did not present adequate evidence as to why they should be allowed to go from 6 to 12. one of those reasons being, and it's cited very clearly in, the applicant that,
Commissioner, I will just point out that Mr. Crockett did determine 14.
no, I know, but I want to make my point because I think the residents need to hear this.
Okay.
That part of this is that they have to have 14 because it has to be financially viable. And that is absolutely shot down in this case, Harmony House, West Lake Lures, Parkstone. And I could read several items from here, as to why that is there was absolutely nothing that the applicant provided as to why this was financially viable. They just said they needed 14. Okay, well, where did that come? I know it came from trying to maximize it, right? I mean, I get that. And so, they showed nothing, and and according to this, again, according to this, determination, the judge said that this was I am not an attorney, so I apologize. The Fifth Circuit. They stated that the burden of proof is on the applicant. And our applicant provided none of that, in their, application as to, why they needed 14 to make this financially viable. So,
can I just redirect and come back because we're
yeah.
focusing on this.
I know.
And I'm just asking if you're pointing for a certain direction, we have to use what's in front of us and or ask for specifics if we're going to table it. And that's why I'm trying to get more specifics of.
It's
We're going to turn to staff and say, if we're tabling this, we would like the following information provided to us so we can actually determine what.
I will add that what is before you also is in part the public hearing, so that is to take into consideration. But the 14 is not a determination that's being made, it's been.
No, yeah, and that's what I guess in all of this frustrates me because, like I said, and has been pointed out multiple times, and I just want to say, I appreciate all the comments from the public. They were very, very cordial, very, very well researched and thought out, so thank you very much. And so again, you know, as pointed out, Mr. Crockett, he made a determination and there was no evidence presented to the contrary. And I found in 5 minutes something to the contrary. And I think people here have found things to the contrary. And so that's why I think we should table it, because I think there's evidence to the contrary. So.
And what's the plan with that? I guess.
Well,
if I bring it back to what's before us, and because you have found something or because people in the audience have done that, that's not what's before us. So how would you like to address that at the time? What would you like to ask staff? What is it we would ask? We
Are you
have to have
asking
an
the
ask.
city to litigate Mr. Crockett's decision?
well, I know that's where this is going, and I know that, I mean, yes and no, because I think, no one wants to litigate, right? It's expensive, it's gonna work, it's all gonna come out of our pockets, right? I understand that.
So let me just point out one thing. This body has no authority to make any determinations regarding litigation.
Sure, I
So-
totally agree.
You can table it and then give staff direction. You can vote to approve, you can vote to deny, or you can vote to approve with conditions. Those are your options, but litigation is not an option for you to decide.
Phil?
I would also ask if you do have concerns to give the applicant an opportunity to talk to you about mitigating those concerns.
If I was to go down this, I think there's specific items that we've been given as potential, the 11 items of potential items we would add to as potential conditions, right? We can ask those, we can ask the petitioners to say, is there an issue with the parking? But right now, they're saying that we can't accommodate. If they don't meet it, we can always say, then we have either the police enforcement or we have the city can come say, he didn't present in his application what is taking place. We can go down each one of these and address them and say, what's your items? If we say you can't start until you've obtained all your licensing, does he have an issue with that? I think we could literally go down one by one, and that's why I was trying to get to what would you ask staff to table? What specific items, or if you're gonna table, we could turn to the petitioner and say, does he have any solution that would mitigate the situation?
Chairman Neff?
Yes.
I'd suggest as an item that would be a reasonable, a reason to table would be to confirm the, there's a conflict between our building code consultant, our building official, and also the fire marshal. If this is a R3 single family dwelling, or if this is a residential group R4 occupancy. The attorney who's presenting the RISE recovery said this is one, and our officials, our city officials said it might be something, or it's something different. That sounds to me like that needs to be.
I like that as something that's very specific,
Yeah,
and
that could be
something
something
that
that-
could be researched, and or we heard from the petitioner who said, we believe it to be this way. Our recommendation, people, fire marshal, city building code are saying, we believe it that. Our group can ask for better clarification be brought before us.
I think that's something
That's a
that should
perfect
be done.
example of what
So-
I think we're asking for.
That's
What's that?
that was part of it.
Yes, but that's what I think we need to be very specific. That's a good example of what are specific things we're gonna ask staff.
Right,
If
that's a
we
condition
table
that you
these are the
cannot
things that we
mitigate
come back.
tonight. If that's an issue you can't mitigate tonight with conditions, then that would be a reason. So that's why I'm just saying, if you have issues that you can mitigate, then then you shouldn't be tabling it. You should give them the opportunity to discuss mitigation factors. So, I mean, he brings up a good point.
Well, what if we did go through all of these line by line and discuss our concerns and why we would like to table it? And if we have a reasonable amount, then, I mean, yes,
We-
but,
It would be
Can I-
better for us to get all questions answered.
yes,
That's
yes, to
that's
go
why I'm trying to make a
through.
list. If we're actually thinking it, I used, John's as a perfect example of it, something very specific. It says we would like better understanding between this group and this group. We've heard the petitioner. We would like better information from our group to make sure they understand what's going on. If we can specifically give a list tonight, staff can help us get those information.
That's what I was going to add, is just that, yes, if you have items that you need more information on, direct staff so that that information can be provided, so that it's not at a next meeting and you need more information on a different item. It should all be addressed so that you're not tabling
Correct.
it again in the
Good
future.
point.
And just for clarification, that list that I gave you was just specific examples that were listed in the order. Those aren't all inclusive of concerns that have been brought up, or concerns that maybe have been raised by commissioners. So you aren't tied to this list specifically, as long as you, and that's why the bottom line is any objective land use concern.
So they're more like guidelines anyway then.
These were things that, that were just listed specifically in there, which items 1, 2, 3, and, well, 1, 2, 3, 5 are all addressed by city code. So city code would be enforced upon this residence as any other.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Commissioner, I would like the commission to discuss the 11 items in detail to be able to provide staff with the request from the commission of what we would like. As we go through these, we can take individual notes, staff can take notes, and we'll compile a list for staff to be able to have ready for us on the next presentation. This conditional use permit. We won't forget John's comment about the building code.
That's on here.
So should we go through them?
So number one, we discussed addressing parking concerns, including requirements and parking plan. One of the audience members, Phil, mentioned that would be something that we could look at. The codes are listed there. I guess we would like a better understanding to make sure that how can we, and you guys help me out, how can we what? The applicant has said that there will be only a couple cars plus the people working. I don't know
Yeah.
that we can restrict it because it's a residential area, as long as they're meeting residential requirements. Is there anything else from that standpoint, from a land use standpoint?
When we get into our land use code and our form-based code and stuff, when we have the parking permit requirements for our commercial stuff or our business stuff, does any of that cross-reference or overlay into the residential when they're converting from a residence to essentially a business, which is what our fire code is having issues with?
No, because it's to be considered as a residential use.
It stays as a
By order,
residential
yes.
use. Okay,
I already asked that one.
sorry.
No, that's somewhere else.
So the only thing we can ask staff is to verify what on parking?
That's what I'm asking. Is there anything that seems to be a big concern in the room and up here on the body, but what else would we like them to determine? To me,
Mr. Wilson, how do we word this to staff?
Good question. I'm here to keep you in the line. I think it's actually addressed by the applicant here with the parking, and you can hold the applicant to what they proposed that they, because they're the ones that proposed it, you can hold them to say, I think it was, they would use the 3 garage and then other parking in the driveway. I don't know how much that, I don't recall how much that was, if
Well-
it was 5 vehicles or what the resident of a similar size would have, but
Actually,
you can
5
hold them to
would be
that.
so
They could have 8.
That's really not staff.
but you could put a
That's
whole
not
lot
a
more
staff
stuff.
number.
It's not a staff. thing.
Okay, so
That's
that-
an enforcement type.
And
of
is
thing.
that consistent with the code, as you said, the side-by-side parking, that they would be able to have 8?
Oh, I don't know the code.
If they're parking in the garage and side by side, if they have 8 parking spaces, yes, but the code only requires a 2-car garage.
And on the street parking, other than during snow removal times, does not apply to. Like,
We
we were talking
can't,
about
we
side by
can't
side.
impose anything
That's not
more
residential.
restrictive. Yeah.
Side by side isn't a residential issue. That's a commercial issue. If I understand that right.
So the parking is a mute point on being able to try and
Mhm.
request any more information because it's been addressed already by the applicant, correct?
Yes, unless you need more information beyond that, but also if it's complies with what is otherwise required on other uses in the zone, then you're tied to that.
Yeah, I would like to see if multiple people have vehicles there and they end up over the amount, what's their game plan?
Well, you could limit the amount of vehicles as part of the conditional use permit.
At my house, we call it a birthday party. I'm sure they'll do the same.
Okay, let's go to number 2, to maintain the residential character of the surrounding neighborhood. That's covered in code, so it's not something
That's
that.
a city ordinance. We
That's
don't have
within the
to
ordinance.
enforce, right?
Mm-hmm. No commercial signage, that's coverage, so that would be an enforceable item. That
Would that commercial signage include decals on the vehicles? You're essentially operating a transit station there.
No.
No, that wouldn't.
Are
signage would be
you
an
restricting
ex-
any other residential use in
That-
this
yeah.
regard?
Yeah, so that's not, I don't see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 4, this is the one I think goes a little bit to what John was saying, comply with all general application,
Applicable.
comply with all general applicable public health and safety standards, and that would also fall under the comply with the fire code, and I think we would just like a better understanding or common ground between the 2 different parties. The building inspector, the fire marshal, and the petitioner, to see if we can get all on the same understanding, because that would be a potential problem I see. Any other comments or something that, that's one for the staff?
I think line item 4 is valid and should be.
That one has to be reviewed to us. Yes, I
Correct.
think that's one of the review items. The noise is a
City
city ordinance code.
So
It's
is the
not an
lighting.
issue. So is the lighting. Next one, number 7, I think that one really bites, it holds its own teeth to the argument. Obtain all required licensing from the state of Utah prior to commencing operation, especially from the DHHS. And I would also add to that, keep all licensing current.
Yes.
I would want to have that wording in there. If not all licensing is kept current, that could void the conditional use permit. So I would like to see that wording added in there.
So on that particular
That one, not really, if we add that wording, it's not really arguable, right? I mean, we've mitigated that tonight. If we agree to that wording, I think that one's good, or does anybody have any other concerns?
No.
Oh, well, I have a question on that one. One of the people that came up and spoke talked about that this house might already be being used as this type of facility. Is that just hearsay? Strike that from the record or no? Is that hearsay? No, it's not hearsay.
Then that would say that they should be following with a license already. So if the license comes in, they're in violation,
So
or they do have a license up to the 5 people, which would be okay.
But so right now they're already using it that way, so they
If-
should have the license.
We don't know. They could. I guess I don't know that. So we could ask that question, right? Is there a license for that facility already?
They've not been issued a business license from the city, no,
Have not.
have not.
A business license?
But hearsay is saying that it is, that
We're,
it's being used that way today.
we're happy to send code enforcement over to investigate.
I think that one's kind of critical.
Sure.
Don't you?
But are they under the 5?
It doesn't matter. They don't have a license.
So
But we need to
it'd be
verify that.
Verify, okay.
Maybe that's a question. So if it was under 5 residents, would they still require a business license? Because in our code, under 5 does not require a
They can
conditional
live,
use.
5 adults could live in there, right? Unrelated.
Unrelated. Well, in
As a
our-
care
in our code,
facility?
It can be in our code, it says there can be a residential house, a facility with under 5 non-related disabled individuals.
And that's not going to be regulated by the DHHS.
Well, they don't require a conditional use.
It doesn't
permit.
require a
It's an
business
accepted conditional use already.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So my question is, would they require a business license even though it's an acceptable conditional use?
I would have to look more at our business licensing code.
That'd be
I'm
question-
happy to do
be a
that.
Okay,
question.
so that'll be a question on that one.
Okay.
Number 8, maintain all required licensing in good standing. And keep all licensing current. I'd put that again after that one. That is part of our code on that one. Operate in a manner consistent with the representations made in the application and supporting documents. I really like that wording. I think that's one that is good, unless somebody has something they want to change with that one.
Is that open to interpretation? I like. Because what one person might think is, I'm operating in a manner consistent might be not what you think, right? I mean,
So how could you be more specific? In which areas? What areas are we thinking?
it's just, it seems vague to me, but, I mean, good, but vague, right? I mean,
I hear what you're saying,
yeah,
but I'm also looking to say, where would you like to go with that? We're trying to be very specific here so we can work with the petitioner and with the citizens.
Oh.
Okay, let's leave that one open and you think about that one. 10, any material change to the nature of use, including any increase in the number of residents or alteration in operational characteristics, shall require approval as applicable by city code. What's the city code on that would warrant, or where would that change come into effect? I mean, I understand the change in the nature, the increase in the numbers, but we don't tie a code to that, I guess, right? So that's the only wording in there that I'm like, they're saying 14. It may not be approved with 14, or, they may come back. But what is the limitations, I guess?
So that's where, depending on what changes they're making, would determine what city code is applicable. So I can't list a city code right here because I don't know what they would propose to change. So whatever they're proposing to change, it would be applicable to that city code and whatever's
Oh,
required
they'd have to
there.
come up to each different code they want
Yes.
to change. I
Yes.
got you. That's a better interpretation. Thank you. That helps.
And
If they wanted to put a sign up, they'd have to come and look at the sign ordinance, so it's not allowed in there, so city ordinance trumps whatever that is, so.
Yes.
I like that.
And
Question?
part of that wording where it says in any increase in the number of residents, that would, if they increased over the 14, if it was approved at 14,
That would
that
void
would
the.
void the conditional use.
Permit, yes.
And that would be the code, it would be,
Yes.
that would void.
You jump in if I'm driving the wrong way, but
No, if they're, and they can request it, obviously,
Correct.
but if they're operating, say it was approved at 14 and they're operating at 16, that would be a violation of their conditional use permit.
okay, perfect. Okay, number 11, any, yep.
Is there any city ordinance in terms of having a dumpster at the facility versus our city cans?
Residential would be then, we have residential pickup.
No.
But we could make
They
it,
just, that's what I'm saying, they just have to
Yeah.
have extra cans, and you just like,
how many are permitted on?
you
is
just
there
pay
any-
for the extras.
That's something I would
We've
argue.
all been there.
How many homes in the area have a dumpster in their driveway unless they are doing some sort of renovation and have those permits? So that's something that would change the characteristic of the
I would think you would
neighborhood.
want to have a
Right.
condition of a dumpster, a long-term dumpster is not allowed.
But that would change the physical characteristics of a residential unit, which then could violate the conditional use permit. So.
Yeah, you
I
have
think
to-
that's covered.
You have to maintain that character, the residential character of the surrounding neighborhood. So
Yeah.
unless every neighbor has a dumpster in their garage, which I'm anticipating they don't.
Number 11, any other objective land use standards that are applicable to residential uses in general? So I guess that's kind of an open, is there something?
I think this is where we maybe talk about the bus stop.
I,
Is that something that?
No, we don't regulate bus
we don't,
stops.
yeah, that's what I say, that's
Okay,
almost,
that can't be
that's almost gonna
talked
be,
about.
citizens will have to call the school, makes their grand plan of where the bus
Yeah.
stops based on where the kids
Yeah.
are kind of outlaying. And that'll have to be, that's not something we don't determine.
We
school
can't
size.
find another entity to follow our conditional use rules.
Right. You again?
So I was gonna ask you something about, so as far as keeping with the residential character of the surrounding neighborhood, if the traffic increases greatly, would that be would that, would that violate that, or what,
So.
where do we go with that?
So the question you have to ask yourself then is if you have a family that has 8, 10 vehicles, whatever, is that something then you're gonna prohibit? It has to be applicable throughout the zone if you're gonna make those types of designations. So as it goes back to if they're having that many vehicles in the driveway or
parking
whatever,
issue
yes,
as well.
and which they have suggested that this is what they're going to be at, which, because the applicant provided that, you can hold them to that.
Or like other transportation services coming and going like that?
No.
No? Just trying to cover all my bases.
Any other concerns or thoughts that we could throw in there with the land use?
I would add any change in ownership, actual change in ownership would, we're,
I'm gonna throw that, I asked that question and it does not
No?
change it.
No.
Any other questions we'd like to have? These are items we've now discussed as we would want to.
Number 11. The other objective of land use standards that are applicable to residential uses in general. There was mention of an ADU on the property. Is that an approved ADU or how does that part work?
Is there an ADU on there?
I don't know.
Additional dwelling unit? Is there a house out back? But it's being used,
Oh, just an outbuilding then. That's
just an
shed.
outbuilding.
Yeah, it's not being used as a residence.
Okay.
It could not be used as part of the 14.
So on number 9, we also need to make sure we have time to draft the necessary documents to support that, right?
No, so what's that saying is that everything that they submitted, they have to abide by what they've represented there. So
Okay.
everything that they've submitted is the supporting documents.
Their supporting documents,
Their application.
Yeah, they're,
If they don't
that
hold
they
that
turned in.
application, they go over here instead of over here, then we have the right to
okay,
possibly pull their application, their conditional use permit.
okay.
Andy? I should have asked this at the very beginning. Is there by definition, is there a different meaning as an occupant as opposed to a resident in a situation like this? Is a resident and an occupant would that be the same? Same, I'm thinking about staff as opposed to clientele.
Yes, that would be, I mean, staff versus residents would be different.
And so what does the 14 entail?
My understanding is the 14 residents.
So it could be more than. it could be
17,
17.
correct.
The 17 according to the
With
application.
with
Correct.
staff. That's correct. That's based on the application.
Mhm.
Okay, are there any other specific items? I'm starting to hear a trend, a little bit of asking for a little more information, which I think we have our rights as long as we're very specific in that we're not necessarily arguing specific parts, but we're focusing on the land use. And so we were focusing on specific things that we would like to help us make our decision a little better or put it as criteria.
I would just know, I would give the attorney or the applicant an opportunity to address
Correct.
anything, but at this point, there's no motion on.
There's no motion, and that's where I'm kind of going to. I'm hearing a few different items. Mr. Crockett, you've had a chance to listen to us as we've looked at a few potential items that some of the commissioners feel is needing more information at this time. Is there anything you would like to address with some of these that have been raised as concerns at this time?
Sorry, I wasn't clear for just a second if you were talking to me, so I assumed that you are. I looks like you're looking in the direction of the video monitor, which is off camera for me. So are you addressing me as the petitioner? Is
Yes.
that, all right, thank you, sorry.
Mr. Keller, sorry. I'm trying to see the small print on the screens and I do wear glasses, but.
Not a problem at all. I just don't want to speak out of turn, so I
Yeah,
appreciate
we'd
it.
like to get some feedback. If you have any feedback that you would like to address with any of these, some of the commissioners have expressed concerns or questions they would like possibly addressed from the planners. There's no motion on the table at this time, but are there any of these that you would like to address and give them any feedback at this time?
Yes, I'd like to address a couple of things. The first one is with respect to the parking. I want to be clear that, we've provided estimates in terms of on average how many cars are used per applicant. We wouldn't want those conservative estimates or those estimates that are to the best of our ability to be like a set in stone requirement that therefore, even if there's more parking available on site, you are limited to only a fewer number of, because you estimated it this way versus that. We're absolutely on board with abiding by all parking regulations and keeping it within all of those parking regulations and in limiting the volume, the placement of parking to all city ordinances. But like I said in my opening remarks, there is significant parking space available on this, including in the garage and out of the garage in the driveway. And you certainly want to, at least as operations, develop, be allowed to use the space that we have as needed. Though we expect it to be consistent with other households, in terms of the character of the neighborhood and that type of thing. So that's one of the issues that I wanted to address. The second issue, and I understand this is, I want to be really clear. I appreciate the care and the attention that the commission members have paid to the scope and to the criteria that they're looking at, and particularly the types of things they're allowed to consider as conditions and those that they are not. But I do want to just make my record, which is that the public comments were overwhelmingly not on topic, and they were overwhelmingly included items that under the housing discrimination laws would be prohibited from being considered. And it has felt that at some level, even as the commission has done their best to stay within the lanes, there are at least some, and there are at least some feeling that these comments, many of which exceeded the scope and the bounds of what's permitted under the discrimination laws to be considered, weigh or appear to weigh in the minds of some of the commissioners. And in the discussions of tabling, I want to be clear that the law prohibits delaying unreasonably decisions, and getting to this hearing itself from our application standpoint has already been, and we've expressed this to the city's attorney and to others, in this process that we've been involved in, overly delayed with respect to the law and the legal requirements. And so if a decision is made today to table based on erroneous application of requirements that don't apply to any other residential building, like the fire assertion and the building official assertion, it will be our contention legally that the reason for doing that in part is the weight that these discriminatory comments had on the deliberation, and that we would reserve all of our rights with respect to bringing claims for discrimination and delay if we have to. We certainly don't want to do that. And we've appreciated the cooperative work that we've done with the city, and we want that to continue. But it's been, for our client, a substantial process beyond what the ordinary process for these would be in compliance with the discrimination laws and that type of thing. So I would really strongly urge, and I'm happy to answer specific questions that the commission has on any of the items. Frankly, with respect to all of the items that have been walked through on that list of 11 things, we don't have any general objections to any of those items and are happy to comply with the conditions of the permit as stated there, with that explanation with respect to the parking, and with one other thing that I'll note. But I don't believe there's more information that is needed for the city to make for the commission to make a decision on this application. And I would strongly urge the commission to make a decision today to grant the application with the conditions that have been discussed and that are reasonable. That's what the record reflects. That's what the record, should lead the commission to conclude. So the only thing that I'd like to address lastly is just a bit of a housekeeping item with respect to licensing with the state. There's always a bit of a chicken and an egg game where the cities want to see state licensing and before they give their approval to the business licenses and the conditional use permits. But just as a matter of state law, the conditional use and the reasonable accommodations and the business licenses have to be issued before the state will even entertain providing its licenses. So the only request that we would have there is that it be framed in terms of requiring us to comply and to obtain and to have the state and to maintain those state licensing requirements, but not that obtaining those be a precondition to issuance of the permit or the business license, because that simply isn't consistent with the way the state law operates on those. So we need your use permit and business license to take to the state, and then the state will issue its approval, and we'll certainly operate with the state license, and will understand the permit that would be granted is conditioned on maintaining and having that state license, but we need the permit to issue essentially conditionally in advance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think that would be just on our item number 7, obtain the license. I would just suggest then that staff help us clarify the wording, that we could say, this is being granted in lieu of, but cannot be acted upon until the license. We just need to, that'll be one that maybe staff can help us out with wording on that. So that we do comply with the state on that. Does that make sense? So, I mean, that's a good question.
I ask, could you speak on, are people living in the house currently and how many there are?
Yeah, I've received word from my client. There isn't anyone from his business, or in there. There's no current operations of the business at the location. So if there's people living there, they're not. It's in the current residential, capacity, or not. It's not being operated as a sober living facility without approvals, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cutler.
Thank you.
So we've heard a few different things. I think, if anything, that maybe solidifies a little bit of some of the questions we still have, and it's good to go through and identify those. if we make a motion, we can, I always remind the people in the audience, this body can either accept for specific reasons, we can deny it, but we ask for specific reasons and then table it. But if we table, we are asking the staff for specific reasons, which will help us make a determination in the future. So at this time, if there's no other discussion items, thoughts or discussion, just as a reminder, those up on the diocese will be the ones voting tonight. We welcome our alternates tonight, but and you're welcome to chime in anytime. But for voting, it'll be the group up on top.
Ask them if they got an opinion.
I know David spoke up, so Nick,
Nick, you
anything
got an
else?
opinion?
Oh, we're putting him on the spot.
You've put me on the spot. My only thought was an appreciation around Jeff's comment on item number 9, where there is the commitment to operate in a manner consistent with representation made in the application and supporting documents. My recommendation, if appropriate, legal, please forgive me for being new to the process, would be to get clarity and solidify what that means and come to agreement with the applicant to ensure that everybody's on the same page with what that means and that those do fit in within city regulation. Remove ambiguity, take the opportunity and take the time to make sure that ambiguity is removed.
I would just say too that just the number 4 alone is reason to want to maybe table this, just because we don't know who's correct, the lawyer there or someone else.
As far as what with number 4?
The building code, what the zoning.
Oh, the building code
Yeah,
part. Okay, yep, the
zoning,
fire.
uh-huh.
Yep. Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. We just need to have a better understanding.
Yeah.
And that's what this body,
We need to
none
make
of us
sure
are-
that it's correct
are
before we. move.
specific in, in the field of any of these, and that's why we have to listen to the recommendations that are provided to us and use that as part of our determination, so. Okay, with that, do we have any other discussion items, questions, or motions that would like to be presented at this time? I can't, so.
How about review the items that would be applicable here from our list? So can you?
You want me to read these again?
Not all of them, the ones that would be applicable to the.
Applicable to the list we talked about.
That we'd like the staff to reply back to us on.
Number 4, which was the comply with general applicable health and safety, specifically the fire. Verify number 7, obtaining license from the state, the DHHS, and then adding keep all licensing current. And then with that, looking at which comes first in licensing versus our part of the process.
Now, other than number 4 on that, the other ones would be a condition after granting a conditional use,
Correct, but once, we just need to know what's the order of that one, right? Do we give our,
Yes.
we can approve it, but is it the licensing versus the state regulation? It depends which that's worded, right?
Correct.
Yes, I was just gonna say you could, I mean, you nailed it, so I don't know that I need to add. I just like to hear myself speak sometimes, I guess.
I'm trying, I'm learning.
No, really what it is
Keep
you just
learning.
make the condition of obtain and maintain all licensing with the state. And if they fail to do so, then it's a violation of their conditional use permit.
Correct. And that falls up on number 9, which was operate in a manner consistent with the representations made in the applicable supporting documents. 7, I think mine was answered, or not 7, 10. I think mine was answered on that one. And then the 11, did yours get answered on the ADU? Do we?
The shed.
Okay, so we don't need to really drive on that one. So we really only have the 3 major items.
Mr. Chair, can I get what you need from staff on number 9?
On number 9,
Yes.
was that one that we just wanted the wording that's operate in a manner consistent with representations made in applicable applications supporting documents?
But we want to remove any ambiguity. We want it defined what the expectations are from both parties.
Can you be more specific? What are you thinking on that? I mean, are you saying review their application and just highlight the items that we want to make sure of? Hey, we're sticking with this, or what is it you're looking for? What are we asking staff to do for us?
I don't know if we want just a better clarity on the supporting documents as far as how the operating in a manner consistent with the representation made in the application and supporting documents. But it's implied that there's ambiguity in those documents that we want to make sure that we don't have. For instance, the way that the parking statement changed. We're providing round numbers, but we don't want to be held to those numbers, kind of thing.
Well, just because the applicant prefers that doesn't mean that that's what you're approving.
What's that?
Just because the applicant prefers not to limit those numbers to what they put in there, doesn't mean that that's what you are bound to approve. He was requesting that. But if you go with what was put in the application as was allowed in the order, that's up to you.
So we'd almost need to review and see if there's anything that we have a question on that ahead of time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll attempt. So I move that the planning commission tables the conditional use permit, item 4A, conditional use permit for residential facility for persons with a disability, sober living located at 1330 West, 3100 North. And then requested this, based on a request of the staff that they review the generally applicable public health and safety standards, determining whether this is the building is a standard group R3 single family living dwelling or a residential group R4 occupancy. And also obtain or provide a timeline or a order of obtainment for all required licensing from the state of Utah prior to commencing or prior to receiving a
Permit.
if applicable, prior to receiving a city business license. And also, where was the rest of it? License from the state of Utah before commencing operations. Did that write out correctly?
And then number 9.
I don't know how to word number 9. I think number 9 comes as a condition a condition after if it's approved.
I think you're right. Yeah,
Correct.
it's
I don't think
part of
that's
the
something the staff
conditional
would do.
approval. Yeah.
I think
So-
we're good with those two.
So if you all that plus my little extra editorial, sorry.
Okay.
That's my motion.
We have a motion to table the conditional use permit located on 1330 West, 3100 North. There have been some requests specified to staff to help us better understand so we can make better determination at our next hearing. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We second. John made the motion, Brian second. Do we have any discussion? Motion on the table. I would just like to make one comment. With this tabling, my thoughts are this group is not delayed. I'd like to congratulate everybody. There's been a lot of work and reading, night hours and lots of during the day hours reading. We appreciate all the feedback from the public, but we also take it very serious what we do, and we want to make sure that we understand to the best of our knowledge the steps that we're taking. So I appreciate everybody up here. But we also have done this in the past. This is not something new, that we want to make sure we're making the right choices with the information that we have presented for us. So I don't see a delay that's taken place from this group for such an important process that's before us. One other thing I'd like to ask that the commissioners keep in mind that this is a land use issue, and we're looking at land use considerations. So we could easily get in rabbit holes and go down road of trying to find lots of other things, but remember that we have things set before us tonight, both by the petitioner and staff. and to make sure that we keep the ask in front of us as it's been presented to us tonight. With that, any other discussion items? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to tabling? It's unanimous. And for the city record, just to remind, in attendance, Manya, David, Jeff, Andy, Dean, Brian, John, David, and Nick, for the record. Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate the petitioner. Thank you, Mr. Cutler, for joining us tonight. Thank you for the vast audience that's joined us. We do appreciate everybody attending. We do know it takes some time out of everybody's evening, and we do read the feedback, and you guys are welcome every time. The city council meets on Tuesdays. We do like to have participation. A plug, we will be working on the general plan coming up in the near future, and that's when we really need everybody's attendance and participation, because that's where it really starts, is in the general plan. So please come be part of that for the city. Staff.
Well, I was just going to ask if you could recess for 5 minutes
gonna
for those
ask for-
who wish to leave and not stay around.
Just because we do still have several items on our agenda, we still have 3 or 4 more items. Everybody is welcome to stay. We are going to take a
It's gonna get
5-minute
fun.
recess, and if we ask you, if we can have you move outside so we can continue, because we're trying to keep these not till midnight. We have a timeline on these, but thank you for attending. Motion to adjourn for 5 minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. recording back on. Just as a reminder, we are still in a session. We are being recorded.
Guys.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we're
Thank you.
back in session. We'll go ahead and we will open up. One consideration is we would like to ask, Mr. Wilson, thank you for joining us for the earlier session. You were scheduled for a training. We'd like to ask if you wouldn't mind if we push that off to another time.
Can we table your training, Mr. Wilson?
There we go. If you're welcome, you're welcome to stay as long as you want tonight, but we'd like to go ahead and push your training off to a future agenda item when we have less on the plate, if per se. So with that, we'd like to go to 4B, preliminary subdivision. Consideration to approve a preliminary subdivision for the consolidation of parcels located at approximately 3100 North, 950 West. Tammy is the presenter. We'll ask her to cover this.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for all your input, for all your efforts with that last one. It was, that was a lot of good information that went around, and I appreciate all your work with that. Our next item is, a petition for preliminary subdivision. As, Commissioner Neff said, this is for a consolidation. Let me scroll down here and show you where this is. Mr. Josh Garner is the applicant for this, and this is his property that, the majority of it is A2. And this will have two parts to it as well. The subdivision part, there are 4 pieces that he's looking to consolidate into one, with one piece being broken off to add to his residential lot that is off of, can't read that, see, 875 West. So zoom in a little bit. So he's looking at consolidating these parcels here into one lot, and then adding, there's a little square right here where he currently has a pool and an outbuilding, and he's looking at consolidating that with his residential lot. He has provided a plat for us showing what the new boundaries would include. In our review, we had a few requirements or requests for him that, one was the city master plan, road plan has a future road proposed right here or planned to go across right here to eventually connect with the rest of 3000 North. He has put on his plat to reserve that as a possible future right-of-way. So if the road, if he ever does sell the land or develop it, that future road could go through there. As for right now, with the road as it is, he has put on his plat to add a city standard size and meet the requirements for a temporary turnaround here, which was one of the requests and comments from our engineering staff. That would be paved and built to city standards. Let's see. Another requirement that he has put on his plan was this road here was originally intended to continue down. That obviously is no longer it's not in the city master plan anymore. And, but one of the things that we asked him to put on his plan is to put the standard curb and gutter and driveway apron for that, because this building here actually is a residence that would be, that's the frontage that they're utilizing. Let's see. So this little orange piece would, and the blue and the green would all be added together. This area here is going to be added to his residence. There were a couple other plat notes that were given as comments.
Good question. So will the address change because he's not emulating that red square? Is that?
So
Would
the red
that
square is
allow
his
the-
current home.
Oh, okay.
And so what's been
So there are two
proposed,
homes on that.
so the blue and the green and this orange piece would all be one lot.
Yeah.
This little piece here, which, let me show you down on it.
I thought you said there was a residence on the blue.
There is, it's a little barn. Residence. So this red area or red outlined area, and I apologize, this is sideways. So the blue will all be one lot, the red will be added to the yellow. Because that does have accessory uses to the yellow lot. So, and here we're showing the temporary turnaround, the future right-of-way, maintaining city easements that are already there. This is where the new driveway apron would be, and those improvements. There were a couple other plat notes about building permits that that would be added. And he made corrections of everything that, as of right now, that we have seen. There were a couple things that I was gonna verify, but everything else, he made the corrections on his new plat.
How is he proposing to break that up?
To break it up, it's all gonna be one lot.
Oh,
So,
I said that one, this was like a subdivision.
no, he's not, this is not for, developing for individual single-family dwelling lots. This would just be for his own use. His future plans is to do a riding arena on part of it, and it would just be, stay agricultural with that riding arena.
It's still okay with an A2 and it having a residential in there already.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's with the review that we've made and the corrections that we have given him that he has made, staff would recommend approval.
And if anything, it cleans up that what was not really together, it's now putting it in the
Yeah.
proper lot. So if anything, it's cleaning up the two together.
And as I said, this goes along with a rezone. And I can just go ahead and give you that's our next item, but I'll go ahead since we're already into it and explain the rezone request. So because this piece here is zoned A2, by joining it with his residential lot, that would give us a split zone lot. And so rezone would just be for the red area to rezone that to RE15, which matches what his residence is. So kind of a technicality of preventing a split zone lot.
On the temporary turnaround, I know the one, I believe the one in front of his house up by the yellow,
Uh-huh,
that's gravel. Do we have to, does he have to pave it?
it will be paved.
Both of them.
We can't, both of them or just the one?
This
the
is
one's
not
not his
his,
property.
this is not his property,
But
but this one,
you can't
it
just do
says
gravel?
right here to be paved in accordance with Pleasant View City standards.
Oh, you're nice.
And I would actually volunteer to pay the next, the one you pointed out. We're gonna make dirt bikes from spinning rock.
Oh.
So, I don't know how I did that. We should have an ordinance.
I'm with you, yeah, all right.
So based on our review and the corrections that have been made and his request for both the subdivision and the rezone, staff would recommend approval of those two items.
Okay, do we have the petitioner here this evening that would like to come and address the body? State your name and address for the record, please.
3019 North, 875 West. Thought I had a lot of friends tonight. Friendless. Tammy's my friend, I'm grateful for.
Any questions for the petitioner, or anything you would like to add that as we review this?
Well, I think she presented it pretty well. Our intention, it's kind of a unique subdivision. Most people want to divide property, want to combine it, keep it A2. So,
Okay, questions from the petitioner or for the petitioner? Okay, thank you. There's two items before us, one being the preliminary subdivision. Do we have any motions or discussion on the item?
Subdivision. So
The first one is just
the first one is not a public hearing.
no, it's not a public hearing. We're just
So it would be
we're
a
the
public
approval
hearing.
body, and the
Okay.
next one will be,
You
so this is just,
know.
this is we are the approval body for this because it's a preliminary subdivision.
So I'll motion to approve item 4B preliminary subdivision, consideration to approve a preliminary subdivision for the consideration of parcels located at approximately 3100 North, 950 West. Motion to approve is presented by staff.
Dean has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have, it's now for discussion, yes.
Were there any, I can't remember if there were any conditions, I'm like, were there any, that we need to exclude in it, like from staff?
No, well.
As presented by staff, I think covered it.
Yeah, and there were just,
That's
like I
okay.
said, there were just a couple.
And I think you said they addressed them.
Notes that I was going to confirm that, but yeah, it's all of them, except just a couple notes.
Perfect. Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Now, we have a rezone, consideration of a rezone and recommendation to city council for approximately 0.5 acres of land located at approximately 3019 North, 875 West from A2 to RE15. We will require a public hearing for this. Is there any discussion or question on this item before we start? Motion to open a public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Motion to open the public hearing.
Jeff's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
On a public hearing, do we have anybody in the public?
Oh, man.
Public. Member, please. Steve Gibson, 3141 North, 325 West. I'm in favor of this rezone. Josh is a great guy. It's gonna be a wonderful property. And I'd also like to publicly thank the planning commission for all the hard work and good questions and solid efforts on everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No one else from the public?
Who was that guy?
Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion, we close the public hearing?
Jeff's motion closed. Do we
I'll
have a
second.
Dean, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any discussion items or a motion?
Yeah.
This one's a lot easier than the last one, so.
No torches and pitchforks. They're all done.
I'll motion, we make a recommendation to city council to approve the rezone of approximately half acres of land located approximately 3019 North, 875 West from A to RE15.
We have a motion to approve by Jeff. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. I think John beat you. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous for the record. Now I'm going to turn to staff and ask, are we plowing forward? Do you want to keep going and hit this last topic while we have time? How long do you think it'll take?
I don't think it shouldn't take long.
Yes,
So,
please.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to 5B, adoption of updated adequate public facilities ordinances. Consideration and recommendation to city council for the amendment, chapter 18.70, adequate public facilities. We will require a public hearing. We'll turn the time over to Tammy to present.
Okay, so our adequate public facilities ordinance, chapter 18.70, in discussion with staff and reviewing the processes and the procedures in our development, and looking at the adequate public facility requirements that we have, they were a little bit, well, as our engineer who wrote the staff memo, they're a little arduous and outdated. It was requiring additional applications, additional work, where the same thing is accomplished through the subdivision or through the land use ordinance applications anyway. And so it just kind of is simplifying it, taking an extra step out that we do through our reviews anyway. So our engineer, Dana Schuler with Jones and Associates, she went through our current ordinance for the adequate public facilities, and she made some changes which have been forwarded to you all. Some of her revision notes include simplified process to include adequacy determination as part of a development application, not a separate application. Removed determination requirements for conditional use permits that are already included in site plan applications. Defined ERUs. Changed approval authority to the Development Review Committee. Changed appeal authority to the City Council. Deleted monitoring and annual review sections. Streamlined the review and determination process and procedure, and updated the table 18.70.101 minimum service capacity standards. I don't know if any of you have any questions about what the red lines showed or what was simplified or changed, but as I said, it was kind of to kind of make it so we're not duplicating our work with having a separate application for that.
Easier read.
Yeah, just simplify them. Yeah.
Comments? Yeah. Nothing jumped out at me. I thought it simplified it. If it streamlines the process, we're all about that from this group, so I appreciate that. We need to open for a public hearing. Can we open a public hearing at this time?
I'll motion to open for a public hearing.
Motion to open, second.
I'll second.
I need a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Open to a public hearing.
Sarah, Steve, you guys got anything?
You get it anyway.
Motion to close. How about you, Matt? You got anything? I got a 20-minute class. Motion to close public hearing.
We have a motion to close. Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any discussion items, anything that people would like to change before a motion? Okay, do we have a motion? This is a recommendation to the city council.
I'll make a motion, we recommend to city council the amendment of chapter 18.70 for the adequate public facilities as presented by staff.
We have a motion to recommend to the city council. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
15 seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. My first thing is thank you to everybody. This is not an easy topic. I know there's been a lot of thought and consideration for this evening. It's not always popular to be, if you'll quickly learn, it's not always popular to be up here. Sometimes we agonize over ourselves to pick. I've told people many times, sometimes we're required to make decisions based on the ordinances that are on the books. That's not necessarily what my heart wants me to do or my neighbors want to do, or especially my family when I get home. It's not necessarily a popular decision. But sometimes that's not looked at that way, when you get outside this room. But so sometimes it's a little hard, but I appreciate everybody, the work that had to go into to get there tonight. I think, we've asked staff to get us some good meaningful information back.
Really,
But
staff really helped on
Yes,
this.
they all did.
Really, really
They've,
helped. Thank you.
And we appreciate Mr. Wilson for being here tonight because that helps us. Sometimes when we get off track, staff or each other, we can help pull each other back, especially when you have public pressure one or the other, or cameras breathing down your neck.
Yeah, who's here?
I wonder.
That was KSL.
Yes.
Great.
So,
Well, and
Uh,
Andy, to that end, I think you do a tremendous job keeping
I-
us on track and keeping things civil.
I appreciate
And
that.
just keeping, I mean, with this many people, we had the potential for things to get out of hand. And I think the camera guy was hoping for that. And
I handed
it
it to the
was just
city.
kept really-
They kept in control and that was good.
yeah, you
It's
did a
been
great
several
job.
years since we've had a boisterous one before, so this was good.
I
Is-
honestly thought he was going to leave when he was going over that way. He's like, well, nothing to see here. I was hoping for, chaos.
I ask a question of staff. Matt mentioned that we don't have any ordinance for reasonable accommodation. Where would that originate? If we were to consider that?
So staff will draft it and it'll come to you guys for a public hearing and consideration and recommendation to the city council.
And
So
do we need to make a suggestion or?
it's, it's.
Those
a
suggestions are already been,
Yes.
we've already asked about that throughout this week because
Yeah.
had we had that, and let's see, is there future things that come up? Then these are things we might want to address. Let's address them now before other future items might come.
Right, terrific.
Sorry. Did anybody, else feel threatened the way that the attorney talked to us?
Well, remember.
I felt a little
Still
uncomfortable
in a
with that.
public hearing, so we're leaving this, but, and it's very, and I'll just bring it back down that, I think everybody here was able to just keep calm and
Yeah.
we listened, sometimes we don't have to let it go, but we have people that show up, so I wanted to make sure that people know that we're concerned and we're listening. And we're listening to both sides. That made a good point to make sure that our petitioner got a chance to give some of his points.
Yeah, so I had I counted 74 in attendance and we took 28 statements. I thought that was pretty impressive stat.
Good.
Yeah,
So
so I thought that
appreciate
was good.
Well, I like our new timer though. That's better than the old one we had.
This is my gym timer.
There you go.
So because we don't have a reasonable accommodation ordinance, is that why we were not able to consider that as part of any recommendation or, I don't know.
Yeah, what would an ordinance have done for us?
So it really would have followed the same process.
It wouldn't have
So-
gone to Mr. Crockett though, right?
What was that?
It wouldn't have gone to Mr.
Good.
Crockett for evaluation. It would have stayed in-house,
No.
right?
Mm-mm.
It still would have gone third party.
I mean, it depends on how you and the city council approve that ordinance. But that would be the proposal by staff and legal counsel, just because I think that you all are phenomenal people.
We're not attorneys.
But, right, but you are not, you don't have the
No.
knowledge that a land use attorney has. So we feel like it's in the best interest of the city to have that out to someone who can evaluate it on a legal standpoint.
But they
Yeah.
could evaluate it using our ordinance of
Right,
reasonable
and
accommodation.
something that bothered me, that came up multiple times is that the city didn't present anything in opposition. It's listed as a conditional use permit. That means it's a yes, but. So nothing was presented to us prior to that hearing to indicate any issues.
And
for
we don't
us
want to get.
present anything other than our
Yeah,
ordinances.
we want to make sure we're not going back into this, so let's make sure.
Yes, yes.
Because we don't have everybody here, so I'm gonna pull us back into it. Are there any other staff, commission items that we need to address tonight? Yeah, just hold on. I saw your hand. We always like Sarah to be in attendance. Any staff issues for the commission as far as things that we need to follow up on? We do have a Founder's Day coming up.
We do?
You have that just driven into the brain because you are like way busy on that one. I don't know when the
I'm
test-
doing the parade,
The
dude.
test day is. I don't see that.
I can't do the parade.
Are we are in the parade again?
Setting up the slide.
I would imagine so.
Okay.
Status
Do
quo,
they get?
same as.
Do they give, we haven't heard, usually we have we're gonna get a golf cart and we'll get candy to throw out. We'd like to invite, we'll get an email out to everybody, I guess, to tell us the time, who might. Yes, please. I just staff, nothing else. We're gonna ask Sarah to give us some updates on the city, any, planning commission. Yes, quick question.
Can I just make one request? On our training and required, we're into June and I have some that have not received
I have
open and
some-
public meetings annual certificate from. So
Do you
probably-
want to resend that out to everybody,
Yeah,
please?
we do that.
And
Yeah.
that'll be a good reminder.
Huh?
Did I do mine?
Oh, I'm sure I did. Yes, I.
Oh,
Who do you need from?
It's sure to say that
who has?
Then who did?
One.
Just Jeff?
Jeff, Chad, who is no longer with us. I mean, no longer part of the commission.
Whoa.
Okay,
John, Brian, and David.
wonderful.
Did you send? He sent me his today. David Gross. Yes,
Thank you.
yeah. There's just two David. So. Yeah, that's fine. Just talking strictly the open and public meetings annual certificate. So, yeah.
If you would resend that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, Sarah, any quick updates for us for Founder's Day? What can we do?
You guys could, not that you would ever want to do this or whatever, but within the parameter, you could have kept your parking if you want to.
We haven't done anything yet.
Just,
We haven't done anything yet. We're listening.
just say, okay, this is so not important, but I have to finish this. Some of you have not responded to Tam's email about your shirt sizes. And just to clarify, you get a shirt because you're a planning commission, not because you're volunteering. And there was some concern about that, about people volunteering, and so it's because you're a planning commission member. And this only started a few years ago when I'm like, hey, why does planning commission get a shirt? Otherwise you did, and so now you do, but that's why you get one day. And we appreciate your spouse and everybody coming to help and stuff, but it's just the funny. So that's why you get a shirt. So if you have not responded, if you don't care and you want to tell me right now, I'll put it down, what size.
Are they
But
unisex?
They are unisex,
Okay.
these shirts, and so they're navy blue,
Yay.
okay?
We won.
And so, and would you guys like one? I know you got a Jillian shirts,
How did-
would you like one?
I'm sticking with what I've already.
Okay, Denise said, I mean, if you'd like one, just let me, I'll send you a picture of it, if you'd like one too. So, anyway,
I'm an extra large.
small, so Maya, small, unisex, okay. Extra large, I think.
Yeah, I haven't grown that much since last year.
Okay, and I have. I don't know, if it's same as last year?
Yep,
Okay.
but make sure my name's spelled right. It's
Okay,
misspelled
I
everywhere.
remember that. I
Yeah,
didn't
buddy.
pick up yours last time.
No, I did.
Okay.
It was just
Okay.
misspelled.
And then here, told me, you told me,
What you get?
Brian told. John told me,
Mine-
Dave,
mine-
you told me, then maybe you get that. Okay.
With the calendar.
And how did we?
You all have to share the same state in one way or another.
Yeah,
I already
Who does
filled in.
not?
I can't.
Okay, you're the only person, but you guys would like to.
I haven't been.
Yeah, you'd like to volunteer. Whether you volunteer or not, you get a shirt. Okay. And you do not have to have your spouse volunteer. It's just, we share more about. And
Just
no one-
don't say that on record because my spouse is obligated.
Yeah. And so, it's not.
Do shirts have last names?
Now it's on. It wasn't on before.
Shirts have last name?
Yes, and I got you your last name. Yes, I did. So they won't. Back to the other front.
So for all of those, we usually have a golf cart, we fill a whole bunch of candy in there, we'll fill a basket and we just kind of walk behind for the parade. Parade starts at in, so we usually
You need to be lined up by 9:30.
9:30, that's what I was gonna say, if everybody can be here about 9:30. And we'll line up about right, straight out from here by the animal shelter, just kind of watch for us. We'd love that, we're somewhat close to the front, and so therefore, a lot of times in the past, we get to the end of the parade and walk back to be your family, or, we have a lot of fun, so come join us, please. How many people are thinking of being there? And you can bring your kids. I don't know, what's that, see if you can come.
Just remember, if you want to bring, whatever you guys decide, I need to be in the park, that you can bring your scooter if you want to, you just can't throw candy, the rule is.
You have to go and hang out,
If you're gonna throw.
dump it in their lap, yeah.
Wind up.
So now we've taken care of those support staff.
Thank you,
It's
Sarah.
so fun.
All right, all motion to adjourn, all in